All right, well, we're just a little bit past 11, and I want to make sure that we can get started to cover all the content here. Good morning and welcome, everyone, to the latest installment in our financial empowerment series, Additional Tools for Homeless Service Providers. My name is Jason Austin. I am the membership organizer with the Seattle-King County Coalition on Homelessness. The coalition has partnered with the housing case management staff at Hopelink to offer this training series to the community. This training series is based around the Your Money, Your Goals Toolkit, which is a collection of resources created by the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau to empower direct service providers to have strengths-based, client-centered conversations about finances and resources with the people that they work with. This is an ongoing training series that we have been hosting on the fourth Wednesday of every month from 11 to 12. Today's topic is tracking income and benefits. A lot of folks we work with are navigating receiving public assistance programs while also wanting to pursue earned income and trying to understand what they can do to make sure that they don't lose their benefit eligibility while pursuing the extra income. We're fortunate to be joined by special guests Kate Means and Daniel Parker with the Benefit Law Center. They are attorneys who counsel people on SSI, SSDI related issues and are going to give us the lowdown on what to do around some commonly found situations. At the very end of this program, we're going to have an advocacy update related to some exciting public benefits work, courtesy of our partners at the Statewide Poverty Action Network. Without any further ado, I'm going to hand things over to Emily and the good people at Hopelink to get this training started. Thank you so much for being with us this morning, everyone.
Hello.
Sorry, I apologize. One more note. We will be recording this meeting so that folks who can't attend today will be able to review this content. Please still feel empowered to share your screen with us. Your screen will not show up on the recording unless you unmute yourself to present. And with that housekeeping item, I'll throw things over to Emily. Thank you.
Hello. So before we get into any content, Stephanie, I'm going to have you change the slide again and again. Perfect. I'm just going to share a disclaimer from the CFPB. So the CFPB created the Your Money, Your Goals Toolkit and all the materials that we are sharing with you today. But Hopelink and Skitch are not employees or agents of the Bureau. And so any views that we express today or opinions we express today are not necessarily the views of the CFPB. And then next. Oh, next. Perfect. And then I'm going to hand it over to Joy, our first presenter.
Hi, and welcome to our training today. We're going to start the conversation off talking about income and benefits. Income can be defined as money you receive from part-time, full-time, seasonal, self-employment, and investments. Investments is important to note that can be received as income if you are working with the senior population, as that can affect, if they take out a huge chunk from any investment they have, that can affect their benefits, as well as their SSI if they are receiving it. So to start this off, I want to ask and pose a question to you guys, if you could answer in the chat. What do you see as the big difference between regular income, irregular income, seasonal, and one-time occurrences? And I'll give you a few minutes to respond in the chat. Stability. Yep, that can be a big difference. Regular income can be counted on and planned with. Yep. You can develop long-term goals with a stable regular income. Regular income is easier to report for benefits. A lot about regular income here. With regular income, you can budget. Basically, this is showcasing that regular income is the easiest to work with for budgeting and financial planning. All right, so I've got another, let's see what they said. Irregular income could be easier to just blow off, kind of like our stimulus payments, right? A lot of, it's just easy free money. It's like, what can I spend this on? So the next question I'm going to ask is, how do these different kinds of income impact your budgeting? And we've kind of addressed that a little bit. Regular income is easier to budget, but why is it easier to budget? Because you can count on it. What are some reasons that irregular income, seasonal, or even one-time occurrence incomes can be very difficult to budget with? You are not sure when you will be getting it. Yeah, not always guaranteed. Harder to pay monthly bills with irregular income. It's hard to plan. One of the things that I've really noticed this year, working with a lot of clients who are getting unemployment, even though it's technically a regular income, they don't know when it's going to stop, or if the pandemic unemployment assistance is just going to stop. So even though it is regular, it's a kind of irregular in the sense that it could stop at any time. And then my last question for you guys is, how are benefits different from income? If you could just answer in the chat, please. What kind of benefits? Any benefits. Control over amount. Smaller amounts like UEC make it harder for people to deal with partial payments and planning. It's not always considered as income when applying for other benefits. They don't always take the form of money, not liquid. Sometimes reliant on participation or cooperation with the government programs to get the benefit, which can be confusing. Yeah, we all know it's not always the easiest to work with different government programs to access these benefits, and restrictions on what you can spend these certain benefits on. Yes, but benefits are an important part of your financial resources because they do help pay for essential living functions sometimes. I mean, whether that's from LIHEAP energy assistance to your food stamps that are going to help cover your food budget, or might be the only budget you have for food. So it is important to track these benefits in the same way that you track income when creating a financial plan or a budget with clients. All right, Stephanie, next slide, please. So garnishment. I don't know if any of you have had clients get their wages garnished. There are many reasons why you can get your wages garnished. The main reason is that you have to have some debt of some kind. And in order to get wages garnishes, typically the creditor has to go and get a court order stating, that you've owed this and you haven't been in compliance with paying it for such amount of time, which means your client should get a heads up because you should get served with those documents if there is a court order for garnishment. depending on, if you're easy to serve. If you don't have an address or you're moving around, you might not know until it just all of a sudden starts disappearing out of your paycheck. For garnishment, wages can be taken directly from your paycheck before it even hits your bank account. They can also take from your bank account and your assets. So knowing, what's going to be the easiest place for them to take from, first place is probably going to be your paycheck, but also to consider if you do have assets or savings or any of those things, they can also take from there. One of the important things to note about wage garnishment, though, is there are some types of income that cannot be garnished, and that is SSI benefits, TANF benefits, ABD benefits, unemployment compensation, VA benefits, federal student loans. So you can receive your federal student loan, and that money they cannot garnish, but if you don't pay it back in time, then they can come and garnish from your paycheck to repay that. And some of the most common types of reasons for garnishment are, unpaid student debts that you haven't been compliant with or responding to make that payment plan set up with. Back child support, I'm sure we've all seen that. You get behind in your child support and DCS can just eventually start garnishing it straight from your paycheck. So it's not a choice if you want to pay child support or not. It can also be money that you owe to the IRS if you have back taxes or anything like that, or any other unpaid and delinquent debts. For me, one of my clients, first time I got to deal with it, she had bought a car from a predatory car salesman who, she didn't have credit, and they gave her a 30% interest rate and no warranty. 2 weeks later, the car's engine blew up and she still owed them all that money. And they came after her for it. And she still had to get another car because she needed a car, which they also helped her buy, but then started garnishing her for the previous one. And so the only way to stop these garnishments is if you file for bankruptcy. The moment you file for bankruptcy, they can no longer garnish from your wages, and they can no longer contact you about it, which is basically the only way to either just let it keep going until the time runs out or file for bankruptcy. So if you have a good case for bankruptcy, that might be one of the options that you want to take. And next slide, Stephanie. So in Washington State, every state has their own kind of policies or laws around garnishment that can be slightly different. There is a federal limit, which says that only 25% of your disposable income can be garnished, but states can add other laws in addition to that to help benefit the person being garnished. And Jason's going to put a link in the chat, and it is for Northwest Justice programs, or justice projects, not programs. Basically their fact sheet about garnishment for Washington State. It was done in 2020. It's very up to date and accurate. It gives the correct numbers on everything. And for me, like when they talk about percentages, that can be kind of hard. So the nice thing about their information is that they tell you like exact numbers. So for Washington State, if you're making 35 times the federal an hour times the minimum wage, you can't have your wages garnished. So it is income based in our state. So if you're so low income, if your income's at a certain low point, they can't garnish even if they normally would be able to. So garnishment can be income based as well, which is important to note. And also on that link, there is a really great webinar from Northwest Justice Project that's about an hour long on garnishment. And if you are working with someone who is having their wages garnished, I would highly recommend watching it because garnishment and the whole legal process can be very confusing. And this webinar is very helpful in helping understand just how to help your client and help your client understand what is exactly going on. And from that, I'm going to hand it over to Emily. Next slide, please.
All right, so now we are going to look at the first tool in this module of the Your Money, Your Goals toolkit. So I am going to have Stephanie open up the tool, and I think Jason's also going to put it in the chat. So if you'd like to open it and follow along on the on your own screen, that'd be great too. So just to let you know, for each tool that your Money Your Goals has, they have a first page of the tool that's kind of a getting started. It talks to you about the purpose of the tool and then how to use the tool. And so I wanted to show you that just to like give you an idea of what that looks like. And so then next we're going to scroll down to the actual tool. And so this is the income and benefits tracker. And when you're working with this client, when you're working with your clients, this really helps give them a good picture of any income and benefits they have coming in during a 1 month period, which can help them kind of better budget for any expenses or goals they may have for that month or for the future. So when you are working with your clients, what you're going to want to do to get started in using this tool is collecting all income for that month, all benefit statements for that month, and any other sort of documentation they have for any income or benefits that they receive. And then what you'll do, and I'm going to show you how it works, is you'll enter the amount of income or benefits received in what week that income or benefit is typically received. And if you are using the electronic version of this, it auto-populates, which is amazing. So I'm actually going to have Stephanie enter some info so you can see how it works. So she's going to show you January. So for the client I have, they have a job where they get paid twice a month. And in January, they get paid the first week of the month and then the third week of the month for that job. And so the first week they got paid $625, or they're getting paid $625. And then the third week, they're also getting paid $625. They also receive child support, and child support typically comes for people on the first of the month or the very end of a month. And so the first week they're getting paid $400 in child support. And then they also receive food stamps, so SNAP benefits, and they get 121 in food stamps at the beginning of the month. So what you'll see at the bottom is it auto calculates total weekly income and then total income for the month, which can be really helpful when you are budgeting for that month and kind of when expenses need to fall, because a lot of the time you're able to kind of move expenses around during the month. But that's something we'll get into during another training about tracking expenses and things like that. But so when you are filling out this tool, you are going to want to fill it out with net income. So net income is what people bring home in their paycheck after taxes, insurance, and deductions are taken out. And so you are going to want to use net income with this to really give the most accurate picture of what money people have in their accounts or on hand that they can use for any expenses or goals that they have. So really quickly, if Stephanie, if you could scroll up a little bit, and if you guys look at the categories, are there any categories that you think are missing from this document? Because there is a section where you can put other. So I'd be curious if there's anything that you think is missing from this tool. And if not, that's cool too.
It could fall into job too, but I know self-employment is something that a lot of our clients do, and that at least for Social Security benefits has different ramifications than a regular job.
Yeah, that's definitely for sure. And then someone asked, can you make an adjustment? What do you mean by that? If you're asking if you can make an adjustment to the document, it doesn't let you like change the categories, but there is the other category that you can handwrite in once you've printed out what that category is. And so, yeah. Well, so the next, we're gonna go to the next slide, which is the slide for the next presenters, but I'm going to tell you guys a little bit about another tool that Your Money, Your Goals offers in one of their supplemental guides, which is for working with people with disabilities. And so Your Money, Your Goals has a income, an SSI benefits estimator tool that I think Jason is going to drop in the chat. And I'm not going to show this to you today, but if you guys want to open it and look at it. So if you are working with someone who receives supplemental security income, you can use this tool to help them estimate how a change in income from work or potentially other types of income might impact their SSI benefits and help calculate their monthly SSI amount. So in the next presenters are going to be talking a little bit about SSI. So I thought I'd throw that in there so you have that tool available to you, because I'm sure a lot of us are working with people who receive SSI. And so now I'm going to throw it over to Daniel and Kate.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you. My name is Daniel Parker. I'm one of the mobile attorneys with the Benefits Law Center. And so with the Benefits Law Center, we help folks with Social Security issues, whether that's eligibility issues like helping folks get onto benefits, or post-eligibility issues like overpayments or helping folks manage their benefits sort of on an ongoing basis. So Kate's going to provide some substantive review of issues that can come up when you're working and receiving benefits. And then I'll be here to answer any questions that come up as well. So Kate, if you want to take it away.
Yes, hello. So I'm going to start off just kind of explaining the difference between SSI and SSDI, which are the two kind of main types of Social Security benefits. SSDI is what most people think of when they think of Social Security. It is, you know, the fund that you pay taxes towards while you're working, and that you can access as long as you have enough work credits when you are retired, or if you become too disabled to work. And that program, the amount that you get can change depending on your work history. And it's considered much more of kind of an entitlement. So it doesn't have a lot of the rules and restrictions that SSI does. SSI is a needs-based program that gives benefits to people simply because they are disabled and can't work, and is not dependent on their work history. There are very strict rules for the income you can have while you're on SSI, as well as the resources that you can own. And that is where a lot of people, especially people who are working, run into problems. There are different issues with both SSI and SSDI for when you can work and how it affects you. And I think we can move to the next slide. So for SSDI, the work that you can do depends on substantial gainful activity. So that's a level where if you earn above that amount, for this year, it's $1,310 a month. Social Security will presume that you are not disabled because you've been working that much, and then you won't be eligible for any benefit if you're above that limit for SSDI. If you work under SGA for another month, then you would get that benefit for that month, and they'll kind of turn it on and off. For SSI, it's a different relationship between your income and your benefit amount. The SSI benefit amount is capped. It raises a little every year, but this year it is $794 a month. And then when you get other sources of income, generally your SSI benefit will be reduced according to that income. So if it's earned income, which is income from work, wages, that is deducted. There's also unearned income, so if you have SSDI benefits, if you're getting them concurrently, they can subtract from your SSI because of what you're getting from SSDI. One source of income that I actually just recalled was unemployment, that we didn't discuss earlier. So if you have unemployment benefits, that can count. And then there's in-kind support and maintenance, which is an important one and one that I think a lot of people don't necessarily know about. It's not a source of income per se, but it is, if somebody is providing you with food or shelter or rent, Social Security looks at that as kind of an asset that you have and can reduce your benefit by up to 1/3 of the total amount if somebody else is paying for your shelter. That also applies if you are incarcerated or out of the country. And then let me go over a little bit about if you want to try working while you're on SSDI. I'm going to switch back to SSDI. SSDI has some kind of work incentive programs, at least that I think is the purpose that they made them for, where people who are on SSDI can try going back to work, see how it, see if they can do it and not be penalized with their benefit amount. So the first time that you do this is the trial work period.
Okay, can we just really quickly take a pause? We're trying to sort out on the back end of things how we can make this full screen to make it a little easier for folks to see. Thank you all so much for your patience. Wonderful, thank you, appreciate it. Go ahead, Kate.
Okay, so the trial work period is basically the first 9 months, and these can be non-consecutive months spread out over a 5-year period. But the first 9 months after you are on SSDI and you work and earn above SGA, that $1,310 amount, those 9 months will count as your trial work period. And so for those 9 months, the 9 months within that whole 5-year period, you're fine. You can test out work, see how, maybe different employment works for you, things like that. As soon as you finish your 9th trial work period month, the extended period of eligibility begins. And that is the next 36 months. It's not, it is consecutive months. So it's as soon as the trial work period ends. And during those 36 months, 3 years, you will only get your benefits for the months that you don't work SGA, so as things normally are. And then if you're consistently working over SGA, your benefits will at some point be cut off entirely, and you would have to reapply. And working on SSI is kind of as I discussed earlier, they'll just reduce your benefit amount based on your income. It's generally dollar for dollar. There may be differences though, depending on the source of the income. And also with SSI, and we can move to the next slide, SSI recipients are subject to resource limits, where SSDI recipients are not. So if you're on SSDI, you can own property, you can have money in the bank, things like that. But if you're on SSI, you are very limited in what you can own. You can't have more than $2,000 in assets of any kind. That so that means money in the bank, things you own. There are exceptions for one home that you own that you live in would be excluded from your resources, as well as one vehicle. But anything above that, even property in another country, we sometimes see those things will be counted as resources. And if it's worth more than $2,000, you will be considered not eligible for SSI. And these resource and income restrictions and limits contribute to a big problem of overpayments. And we can go to the next slide for that. And for overpayments, both SSI and SSDI beneficiaries can get overpayments, but in different ways usually. So as discussed for SSI, either you're over the resource limit and you're receiving benefits when you are ineligible under Social Security's rules, or you had income that Social Security didn't know about and they paid you your full benefit and they should have reduced it or not sent it at all. And then for SSDI, if you work over that threshold, the SGA, for a month and they don't know about it and send you your benefit anyways, then they would also want you to pay that back. And for both of them, if it's a medical decision where Social Security says, oh, wait, you weren't actually disabled, or you've improved and are no longer disabled, and they sent you benefits for those months, that would also be an overpayment. And overpayments occur mostly in large part because of kind of delays between when Social Security sends the benefits and when they receive and process information that they would use to make eligibility decisions. And so that can result in a problem where people will have months and months of an overpayment debt that they didn't know about. To avoid overpayments, and we can switch to the next screen, next slide. To avoid overpayments, the most important thing is really just to understand. First of all, you want to understand the rules. For SSI, the income rules and the resource rules. And for SSDI, the trial work period, the EPE, what is working SGA. And then the second most important thing is just to report things and keep records. And can we go to the next slide? Oh, and I did skip this over. These are methods for appealing an overpayment. You can kind of make two arguments. One is the information that you had was wrong. You know, either I wasn't making that income, I didn't have those resources, something like that. Or a request for waiver, which would be under Social Security's rules, I shouldn't have received these benefits, but there's some reason why I shouldn't have to pay that back, whether that's, you know, because you just didn't know the rules were not explained well by Social Security. It's kind of forgiving the debt there. And then we can move on. Yeah, so you want to understand the rules for each different type of income, especially with the trial work period and the extended period of eligibility. You would probably want to like calendar that and, you know exactly when those periods are each going to start and end. There are you basically you want to keep records of everything that would be income, benefits that you received, you know, from various sources, really anything at all that Social Security might want to look at to determine, you know, what's your financial status, as well as medical, but we're talking mostly about finances and work here. And they can, beneficiaries can report these things to Social Security in a number of ways. I think that the most common way that people do it is to call Social Security, but also, people also will send in their pay stubs, things like that. And I know that that's something that case managers do that's very helpful to clients, is to help them report these things to Social Security. And we can go to the next slide here. Oh, sorry, I went through these already. So yeah, you want to report the changes within, as soon as possible, as soon as you know about them. And this would be changes in income. And also for SSI, you would want to report changes in your housing situation if you're paying more or less for rent and housing. And we can go to the next slide. So yep, just keep a copy of everything. Next. Okay, so now we're coming to kind of the budgeting section and how people can plan ahead for what it's going to be like if they're trying to work and pay, receive Social Security benefits. And some of these things have been touched on previously, but the most important things to consider are obviously, your expenses, what do you have to pay out, and what are your sources of income or money, whether they're from, benefits or work or anything else. And especially if you're planning on, retiring or, mostly retiring, you would want to look at that kind of long term. So there are some tools that Social Security provides on their website. I did not remember to link them here, but there are tools like benefit planners from Social Security. You can even look up what you might qualify for SSDI, things like that. And those can be really helpful. They also have tools for like if you're planning like early retirement and how that would work out. And then this Your Money, Your Goals toolkit that others have brought up. All of it looked like it would probably be useful, but I just wanted to highlight 3 of the tools in there that I went through and I thought would be especially helpful for people on Social Security benefits who want to work. And those would be the Income and Benefits Planner, the Budget Worksheet, and the Financial Empowerment Worksheet. And I think that's it for us. If you speak with people with Social Security issues, feel free to tell them to contact us. In addition to dealing with overpayments, we do also help people with applying for benefits. So if somebody's trying to get on benefits for the first time, that's something we'll do as well. And that's about it, I think.
All right, so at the end, we'll have some time for questions. And so if anyone on the call has questions for any of us at the end, we can take some time to ask questions. So the next.
Emily, one thing really quick. I just want to add one more SSI, SSDI related resource to let folks know about. And forgive me, Megan, for putting you on the spot so suddenly, but we have Megan Monsmith, who helps administer the SOAR program, which is a great resource for folks who are looking to get a little more detail on how to help their clients navigate these programs. Megan, if you wouldn't mind me putting you on the spot here, can you give a quick 2-minute plug for your work?
Yes, absolutely. I'm so glad. Thank you. So the SOAR program, I think about it a lot with the SHS SSI facilitation. With SSI facilitation at the DSHS office, unfortunately, they can't leave the office. And so a lot of people fall through the cracks because they don't come in or they don't call in. And so SOAR alternatively is a program that helps people that are in the community understand how to do SSI applications so they're more effective and more complete. And I think all of these components can work together to help people get SSI applications in and done. I'm going to put my contact information in the chat again right now and a link to the SOAR program. And anybody who wants to talk about SOAR or DSHS stuff, send me an email, please. Thanks, Jason.
Thank you.
All righty. Okay, thank you. So the next tool that we're going to look at is a tool that is about choosing how to get paid. And so you can use this with your clients to help them decide how they want to get paid their income or receive benefits. And Stephanie has pulled it up. So a lot of the time, people don't have a choice in how they get paid. Some benefits from the state can only be given to you on a preloaded card, and sometimes employers will only pay you via a check. But there are some instances where you can decide how to get paid. A lot of employers now are doing direct deposit if that's what you want. And so I'm just quickly going to go through this tool because we still have some stuff to move through before the end. But so again, that was the getting started page that tells you like about the tool and how to use it. And so what this tool has is it has a list of different methods of how you can get paid, and then the benefits and risks of each of those methods. It also has a section that has is where clients can ask questions about a certain method and kind of make notes for themselves about what might work and what might not. And so I'll just go through the methods really quick. I'm not going to do the benefits and risks because we don't really have time for that. But people can get paid in cash, which, I mean, a benefit of that is it can be spent almost anywhere and it's easy to access. People can get paid via a paper check, which a lot of employers still do. And then people will can be paid via direct deposit, which so many employers do now. And that money can be accessed almost instantly on payday. And then just scroll down a little bit more. Then we have a payroll card, which employers can load your salary or wages onto a prearranged prepaid card. Then we have a government benefits card, and this card is usually, it could be child support or SSI benefits. And then if you scroll down one more, then you have your EBT. This is where people might get SNAP or will get SNAP benefits, or where they can get their TANF benefits. And so those are kind of those are the methods. If you want to look through that further, it will tell you the benefits and risks of all of those. But I'm going to now pass it off to Anna.
Thank you. I have to unmute myself. Now we're going to review the increasing income and benefits tool, which is located on page 74 of the Your Money, Your Goals toolkit. So if we go ahead and open that tool, thank you. You'll see the getting started page that Emily talked about in the beginning. And on the getting started page, it talks about ways to increase money brought into the home each month. And it highlights one-time activities such as a garage sale, or more ongoing regular income generating activities such as getting an additional part-time job or applying for public benefits. It's important to highlight that not all income generating options will work for everyone. So it's important to work with your client to focus on the options that feel most realistic and attainable for their lives. So if we scroll down to the next page, thank you, we see 3 columns. So there's category, strategy, and ideas. So in the category section on the left, there's using skills and resources and looking for job opportunities, selling household items, and considering government options. And then in the middle column, we can see suggestions for strategies, which includes things like becoming a rideshare driver or getting an additional part-time job, or how to apply for SNAP benefits. And on the right side is the idea column, which is essentially just what it sounds like. It's a place for you and your client to write down ideas for how you're going to accomplish the strategies that you have selected. So that could be what items they want to sell, or first step to applying to TANF. And although this tool is quite comprehensive, it's not exhaustive. So it's likely that you and your client will be able to think of unique strategies that might fit that are not on this list. And if we can go back to the slideshow, please. Thanks, Stephanie. And next slide. Sorry, lots of hopping around with these tools, but they're really useful if you have time to review them later. Okay, perfect. So to kind of wrap up a little bit of what we talked about with the Your Money, Your Goals stuff, managing income and benefits is absolutely essential to financial empowerment. And many folks often don't think about their income beyond the amount that they receive each month. So, but understanding issues related to timing and predictability can help folks control their finances. And if someone doesn't have enough money, then it's important to identify strategies that can help them bring in more income or more resources. And some ways of receiving that income may be more beneficial, as Emily was talking about, to folks that we serve versus other ways. So for example, a paper check versus direct deposit versus a payroll card. Learning all about that and talking about that with your clients will really help to empower them to make informed choices for themselves that can benefit their families. And on this slide, as you can see, there's just some friendly suggestions for how to incorporate these financial empowerment opportunities depending on how much time you have with each client you have. So maybe you just have 10 minutes to go over the choosing how to get paid tool, or you have 30 minutes to go over the income and benefits tracker, or you have multiple sessions. But it's important to know you can do these tools out of order, and it can be completely tailored to the client and the client needs. So that's my time, and I'm going to pass it off to Liana from the Statewide Poverty Action Network.
Hello, everybody. My name is Leanna. I use she, her pronouns from Poverty Action. Thanks so much for having me and for all the work that y'all are doing in communities and yeah, helping people keep money in their pocket. So I wanted to go over with you some of our priorities for this session. Just in general, this is one of our buckets of kind of categories is building a stronger safety net. And those are the things that kind of are in my wheelhouse. So we focus on 3 big programs, HEN, ABD, and TANF. So I'm your girl for those ones. So the things that we're working on this session with HEN and ABD are a couple things. So with HEN, this year, since there was this big budget deficit, HEN was kind of on the chopping block, so to speak. They submitted it for budget cuts. Luckily, we haven't seen this come to fruition. There's been a lot of advocacy around keeping this program and about investing in it more deeply. Governor Inslee, in his budget that he just put forward, suggested putting in $104 million into it. And so we're really hoping to see robust investments there. This is, as y'all know, is such an important program for so many of our clients. And so wanting to make sure that not only that we keep this, but that we invest more into it. So this is a budget ask for this year, is to keep investing in the program. With ABD, we would love to see this be a more meaningful cash grant. As you know, the amounts are only like about $197 a month, which just doesn't cut it, y'all. It doesn't cut it. And so there is one bill that helps, will hopefully lead a path to helping to increase this. So a lot of the benefits that we administer in our state, how they calculate them, came from the study that was done in 1991. And as you can imagine, 30 years ago, things looked a little different. Wi-Fi wasn't really a thing. You know, they didn't take into account the cost of out-of-pocket childcare costs or medical expenses. So this is not a good study that we are working from. And so this bill mandates the state to update the study and use something that's a little bit more meaningful. And hopefully at that point, once we update the study and see how much different the grant amount ought to be, then we can advocate for like, hey, you should pay that amount also. So that's setting us in that direction. So that's House Bill 1151, sponsored by Mary Lovett this year, and it also applies to TANF. So we can scoot over there, and I'll tell you a little bit about our TANF priorities. So in the big picture, in this graph, kind of like the story that we have seen go on with TANF is during the Great Recession, Washington lawmakers really tightened the belt on TANF and made it harder to access and harder to stay on, and introduced a lot of punitive policies. And so the orange line that you can see on the slide is the number of families living in deep poverty. And there hasn't been a ton of change, a little up and down, but we're pretty much where we were when the Great Recession started. This blue line is the number of families that are served on the TANF program. And as you can see, at first it's more than the families who are living in poverty. And then 2011 comes and we see this steep and steady decline. And that's a result of those harsh policies being enacted and being put into place. And so there are still thousands and thousands of families who are in need of assistance and just unable to receive it or access it. So this bill would reverse, this bill 5214, sponsored by Senator Wynn, would reduce some of these harsh policies and broaden some of the some of the tightening that happened in 2011. So we would really love to see that happen, especially because we've seen racially disproportionate outcomes with this, which specifically hurting Black and Indigenous families, and they're being cut off more because of time limits. And so we would love to see this more equitable policy introduced. Also, more specifically related to this, also included in the bill is something called an increased income set aside. So right now, I think this mirrors SSI. If I'm reading this correctly, I'm not an SSI expert, so please correct me if I'm wrong. But right now with TANF, you're any earned income, half of it counts against your grant. And so what happens is, say you earn $1,000, then 500 of that is counted against you, and your grant is reduced by that much. So what this bill would do would make it so that you would be able to keep 100% of your income, and none of that would count against your grant amount. And so it allows folks to earn just a little bit more without having that count against them. The same income limits would still apply to the program in general, but you're not punished for essentially having an earned income. So we would love to see that part pass as well. As I mentioned, this study would also help with the TANF grant amount, hopefully in the years to come. One last plug that I wanted to offer that's not on these slides is related to the garnishment that we talked about at the beginning. So, and there's not a bill for that yet, but right now we have the limit in Washington State is they're allowed to garnish until your bank account is at $2,000. That's like protected essentially. But it's not an automatic protection. And so you have to go in and apply and say like, hey, you should protect my last $2,000, please. And we think that ought to just be automatic. You shouldn't have to jump through hoops to protect the money that's in your bank account. And so we're waiting for that bill to drop still. So that should be coming around the bend soon, but just really want to make sure that we're protecting folks and not garnishing their last dollars. Happy to answer any questions. I'm going to put a whole blast of links here as well in the chat. Woo, so many links of different things that can hopefully be helpful. Happy to answer any questions. And yeah, thanks so much for having me.
Thank you so much, Leanna. And I think what the coalition wants to stress is that everyone on this call today has a really important role to play in bringing these messages to Olympia. You know, you all as frontline service providers, developing relationships with the clients you work with, you know, you are the trusted messengers. You are the subject matter experts on these matters. Thank you so much for providing those links through Poverty Action. We definitely want to encourage you to take action throughout session so that these priority bills can get heard and that, you know, folks can be moved from squishy to solidly supportive into champions, etc. Another partner organization of ours, the Washington Low Income Housing Alliance, has their week-long lobby day coming up. They are also pushing a lot of the same priorities as Poverty Action. I've put a link there in the chat. And yeah, Liana, who should folks follow up with if they want to testify or get their clients involved in the legislative process through your agency?
Yeah, you can go ahead. I put my contact information there at the bottom. You can go ahead and reach out to me. There's also other priority issues that we focus on, like dental therapy and consumer protections, these types of things that aren't in my wheelhouse, but I can definitely connect you to my teammates who are. So feel free to reach out to me and I'll connect you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we've come to close to the end of this workshop. We really appreciate all of your attendance here today. One quick plug, the Coalition has put together a collection of COVID-19 vaccine resources for homeless service providers. Our last membership meeting featured a presentation by Dr. Maria Yang, the medical director of DESC. We've recorded that and compiled a bunch of materials through the Healthcare for the Homeless Network. So if you or the folks you're working with have vaccine related questions, please check out our website at the link I put in the chat. We'll be doing our best to update it as this is a situation that is, quite rapidly changing. And we want to make sure that we're providing the most up-to-date information that we can. And with that, I think that comes to the conclusion of our meeting here. Thank you everyone so much for attending this training. If you haven't yet filled out the post-training survey, you can do so at the link provided. As I mentioned at the top, these workshops have been occurring on the last Wednesday of every month from 11 to noon. Our next training is going to be on Wednesday, February the 24th. You can register at the link that I just put into the chat. And to answer some questions in the chat, yes, the follow-up email that you are all receiving will contain all of the links that were put in the chat by various presenters, a copy of the PowerPoint slide that you see here, as well as a recording of everything that was said aloud. So look for that follow-up coming soon. Emily, did I forget anything in the closing statements there?
Nope, I don't think so.
Okay, wonderful. Well, again, thank you all so much for being with us here. We look forward to seeing you at another event again soon.